So Alien Romulus came out tonight for all of us losers, since everyone else seems to have seen this but us at this point. They had like early screenings for like 40X. They had freaking screenings for press, which we didn't get invited to. They had early screenings on Wednesday for people, which we didn't have in our area. I was just like, okay, are we just going to be the last people to see this? We're usually the first people to see movies, but now we seem to be the last people to see a freaking movie. It is what it is. Good for everyone, but we saw it tonight. Let's talk about it. So this is the, I don't know how to say this, like, is it the 7th film in this franchise? Is it the 9th? Some people are like, Alien versus Predator movies aren't canon, but there's been a lot of them. And so this time around, we're bringing in a visionary director in Fede Alvarez, who did the Evil Dead remake, or it's not really a remake, reboot. How about that?
Yeah.
And Don't Breathe. Mm-hmm. And with him, you knew that he was going to focus on visual style and bring it back to the roots of the horror genre. That was pretty much a gimme with bringing him into the franchise. And was it a good fit? Let's discuss. Also a good fit is this t-shirt that I never wear, and I was waiting for this occasion
to wear it,
to throw it on.
Yeah.
I was sent this by a subscriber a long time ago, and for some reason it just never comes out of the closet. But I do. No way.
That's true.
Huh? No. So, yeah, let's talk about this film. So, we are following a group of, we'll say, 20-somethings, and they find out about some sleep pods that they want to possess for a long space trip that they can't make without them. So they get together to go to this abandoned ship that possesses these sleep pods. And when they get on board, guess what's on there with them? Some xenomorphs. So this takes place in between Alien and Aliens. And so that's the timeline. Mm-hmm. And I'll set the stage really quick here, very fast. I've seen every Alien movie a couple times, or a few times each. I'm not some massive Alien fan. And then Kaylee has seen the first one, and she has seen almost all the second. We tried to get it done before this movie. We just couldn't get it done in time. That sucks, but that's her experience with the franchise. So you'll have two different perspectives, but no like Alien fanatic here. Mm-hmm. And with that being said, I was a big fan. I thought this was great. I don't know really what more someone would exactly want from an Alien film. I do have a feeling, like with any hardcore fans, that anytime you touch their precious little franchise, they're going to have issues with it in any way that is possible, right? So if you make it too close to the original, it's too derivative. If you steer too far away, then it's nothing like the original, and then something in the middle is like kind of, I don't know, too safe for that. Like, I don't know how you please those kinds of fans. So I don't think you try. I think what you do is you go in, you make your own film that feels faithful to the franchise but can stand on its own. And I think that's exactly what this film is. Having heard enough from others who have seen this now, since we are the last, other fans of the franchise that were big on this, they all kind of said the same thing, that the last act has something in it that is going to divide fans. And I will say this, it's my favorite part of the film. But for added context to that, if you're new to the channel, I'm the guy who loves the franchises, when they're at their riskiest. So like Halloween Ends, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2,
Yeah.
Halloween 3, like for one franchise in particular. And I could say that for many of the other franchises. I don't always love that. Jason Goes to Hell is awful to me. But like, I like when franchises do something different or do something unique, but, you know, have their own feel, but also kind of feel like the other stuff as well. And that's what this is. This is a great, like, blending of the franchise, because we got hits from all the films in here, and yeah, I was just a big fan of that. I just don't know, I don't know what more people would want, because this is as close to Alien as you're gonna get, but more modernized.
Yeah, it's definitely more modernized. I also typically like when franchises like do something different, and I agree with you. I think the best part of the movie is probably the last act and what ends up being in that last act.
Yeah.
I thought it was really freaky and scary, and it makes total sense for like the plot of this movie and where things end up going. So I think it's totally, it fits like really well, and I like what that could mean for the future of like the franchise as well, having not seen any of the other movies. But I really like this movie. I think that it's got my favorite characters is Andy.
Yeah.
So I really love his character and Rain, like their relationship and everything. I think that that's very heartfelt, and there's some good drama there, and I just really enjoyed everything going on between them. I like the other members of the crew, all right, like the little gang that they have. But I think that as you said, the standout is definitely like the set design and the atmosphere. I think the ship looks really great. I really enjoyed like how they used the location as well. I think it's well used. And my only critique, I guess, would be that and this is funny because we recently were talking about CGI in another movie. I don't remember which one, but I was saying that I typically am not the person that like has a problem with CGI, but there was a couple CGI moments in this that I didn't like. One of it, I can't really talk about it, I guess, without spoilers, but there was just a couple moments that I just kind of thought that it didn't look as good as I would expect it to look. But I think that's me being maybe a little critical on it, because overall I think that the film doesn't like have a downgrade or anything because of that. It was just something that sort of stood out to me. So I just thought I'd mention it because I usually don't notice CGI, but I did with this.
So, you got more? Go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say that there's definitely some like callbacks from what I've seen in the first movie and the second film. So I really liked those. I think that they are added in there like well, and it doesn't feel lame or like the whole movie is, being propped up on just homages or anything.
No.
I think that they're really like expertly put in, and if you had never seen the movies, like you wouldn't really know what was happening with them, and it would just be like, oh, okay, like that's a cool shot, or
Yeah.
I don't know what that thing means or whatever. But I think that for people who do know the franchise and like the lovers of the Alien franchise will really appreciate those.
Yeah, as far as the fan service goes, number one, I'm a fan of fan service. I'm a fan. Serve me. I've said that before, and I'll say it again, as I just did. More to the point of what you were saying there, I think it's organically woven in well enough that you wouldn't question what it was, like you had said. If you'd never seen another film, it wouldn't feel like, well, I don't know what that means, or like, that feels like that feels like it's a callback to something. Like, it doesn't feel that way. Like, you'll know it because you've seen it before, but the way it fits into the film, it feels like it's part of this film. It doesn't feel like a part of a different film. So with the fan service, all I can say on that matter is that if you're someone who's like eye-rolly with fan service, then you're not going to like it. If you're somebody who's like, I like fan service, you'll like it. So I feel like that's true of all fan service. There's people who are like, no, none. And then there's people who are like, I enjoy it, usually. So I think those types of people are always going to be like, the same on that.
Yeah, but as you said though, like I think what makes like having fan service in films work, whether or not like you like it or not, is as long as the people that are unfamiliar maybe with like that franchise or that movie or whatever that it's being referenced, that they don't feel like left out. Because that's definitely happened to me in movies before where, like, I mean, yeah, like, if you're going into, the 9th film of a franchise or something, like, that's kind of different. But when we have these, like, reboots, remakes kind of a thing, I think you definitely have to consider that there's going to be members of the audience that haven't seen any of the other films and shouldn't necessarily have to enjoy it because it's sort of this reboot that's happening. Yeah. So that would just be the only thing I would add to that, but...
I mean, with this film, I don't think there's anything in it that the previous films are required.
No, I don't think so either.
But that being said, to go to your point, this is the 7th or 9th film in a franchise. So it could do those things, but it shouldn't, and it didn't.
Yeah.
Right? So it doesn't really require any previous films, but I think it's richer if you have seen them. So,
I'm sure, if you've seen all of them.
As far as the CGI goes, so this is something I find kind of interesting, and I was thinking about it while we were watching this movie. So, like, when we look at movies from from any era, whether it's the 30s or the 40s or the 70s or the 80s or whatever the hell, there's some kind of, like, nostalgia factor for dated like technology, for things that don't look good, and we're fine with it. Like, we watch it, and even back then we accepted it more. It was kind of like there's a bigger expectation on the presentation of things now, right? Whereas where in the 70s, fucking shit never looked real. It looked so fucking fake, and it was part of the charm. And when we look back on them now, we're like, oh my God, look how bad that looks. But, like, it's not a negative. As to where now, if something is, like, just off, and this shit looks better, period. This whole film looks better.
Oh, yeah, the film
than
looks
any
great.
other fucking film in the franchise, in my opinion. I mean, they've just, as the films go on, the CG, the effects, everything just gets better. And this film looks great. There is something in here that's CG that will bother some people because it isn't as perfect as it could be. But to me, I really liked it. The inclusion of it, because I felt the connectivity of it, and I really liked that.
I like it too.
But I also find it odd, as I was kind of trying to get at, that these types of, like, dated things for the future, we can't see that now as to where we once did with, like, yeah, this doesn't look 100% real, but it just didn't irk us like it does now. Because I think, you've seen movies where it's been almost perfected or basically perfect. And you're like, well, I know the technology's there now.
Yeah.
And I guess, it could be better, but, not everything has that time or has that budget or has that thing, doesn't have that person who worked on it that made it look exactly perfect. And to me, that just adds to the charm of, like, looking back on this in 15 years when everything is perfect, basically. And we'll be like, oh yeah, remember when they were still working out those kinks? Like, it's kind of a time capsule. That's what film always is. It's a time capsule of where we were technologically or practically. Things they evolve, and there's a charm to that limited nature of technology, of, practical effects and whatever. So I don't know. I find it kind of short-sighted that people are always harping on this thing now that they never seem to be that upset with in the past, even though a lot of the times it looks better. But sometimes it doesn't. It just depends.
It does depend.
But it is odd because this is just a snapshot. Like, when I watch The Langoliers, I know I bring it up a lot with CGI, but I love the charm of how horrible the CGI is because of how far we've come now. I look at that versus that, and I'm like, it doesn't hurt the film for me. It adds to the enjoyment. And I don't know. I find it odd that we're so critical now and we didn't used to be this critical. Like, what happened to us as an audience?
Well, as I said, I don't think that this ruins the film or anything.
I don't
but
think this isn't for you. I think that this is going to be a common complaint from a lot of people, and I want to shift their perspective a little bit and make them question themselves and say, yeah, why the fuck am I so critical now?
But I think that, like, I do understand with, like, a movie like this where everything else looks so wonderful. So when there are, like, maybe a couple moments that do stand out as, like, you know, you can sort of see that it's not as perfect as the rest of the film.
I didn't have a problem with it. Like, I
know
get
you
that
didn't.
it's not
I know
perfect.
you didn't. I'm just saying that it's kind of like it's a weird, like, incongruity that you notice. And I really liked the film a lot. I think it's a fantastic film.
So what you're saying is the quality of film has gotten, or like the quality of the look of film has gotten so high that people are spoiled to the point where, like, if anything looks off, they're more critical than when films looked worse and other things looked a little worse by comparison, but because so much of the other part of the film didn't look that good, they're willing to overlook it because it doesn't, like... Yeah.
Well, as you already said, people know that
kind of goes to my point.
There's the technology out there, so it is easy to be like, I know that it exists. I've seen it done this way before or whatever. But anyway, moving on from that,
$50 million laying around.
Exactly. I know that's the other part of it too, is that we don't talk about, like, the budget of CGI that is, you know, also still, like, a major factor for filmmaking. And it's not super easy to just, like, you know.
And the time crunch that people are on.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
You know,
so there's definitely
not
a
the
lot.
top talent is always available for these things because they're being worked to the bone on every one of these movies, because every fucking film has like 3,000 special effects shots now, and they used to have like 200.
I agree with you. I think that like, you guys will know what we're talking about when you watch it, of course, but I did really like the inclusion of it, as you said, and moving on from all the CGI talk. But the other thing that I really liked in this film was that there's something, like, we get to see more of, like, I don't know if this is in other movies in the franchise, but the acid blood of the alien, I feel like we got some really cool gore with that I really appreciated, because that is something that I've thought about with the other, like, the two films that I have seen, is, like, how acidic it is and just wanting to see more of that.
What it would do to a human body.
Yeah, and we get to see some of that in this movie, which I really appreciated. And overall, there are a few really good gory moments. The look of the alien is wonderful. There's a lot more, like, body horror elements to it than I've noticed in the last two films that I watched. And I think that the horror in this movie, like, really, really works.
You know what? When we're so many films into a franchise now, and we've seen kind of like most of what the xenomorphs have to offer, right? Like, there's just a lot of rinse, lather, repeat with the franchise, with, like, the limited capabilities of the xenomorphs. Like, they kind of do their thing, and they do it in a very kind of specific way. And this film illustrates and does that very well. But there's all, you know, you are like kind of limited by the other films and how many things have come before, and it's like, how do we reinvent that and keep it fresh? And there are some scenes that do this, right? There's something in Zero Gravity that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's a fantastic scene and really, really smart, and I was like, that's cool as hell. So that was unique and interesting. But then once we get towards the end, which is that, you know, thing that might become controversial, that to me is where you really see, like, okay, this is what adds to the franchise.
Yeah.
And that is 10 times over the scariest thing in this film.
Yes.
And probably even the scariest thing in this franchise to me.
It's
so
super
to me,
scary.
I'm like, okay, no, I don't care what anyone says. This shit's awesome. My only real critique per se, you know, I really liked the soundtrack. I really liked the atmosphere. With like the corridors and the technology. So that's another cool thing here, is that this feels like it's from Ridley Scott's Alien, with the technology as it is, with all the flashing lights, you know, the buttons that are pointless on the walls that they always did in all the old sci-fi movies, that you're like, what are all these fucking buttons for that are flashing? I love that stuff. All the TV screens are like old ass TV screens. It's not updated technology, which is great, and it flows with the franchise. This feels like it perfectly sits in between Alien and Aliens. So love to see that. My only real critique is also going to come with like a caveat because it makes perfect sense. So I'm already critiquing my own critique of myself, but like our characters get dispatched a little too quickly in a lot of areas where I'm kind of like, oh, that's okay, they're gone now. But it also makes perfect sense because we're not dealing with colonial Marines here. We're not dealing with like well-equipped, very, intelligent scientists that have already been, through training of space and protocols for what happens if they encounter something or whatever. These are kids. These are kids that are out of their depth, and they would be killed very easily and very quickly, and they probably fight back better than they really would. So the fact that I think they get dispatched too quickly is probably bullshit. But I'm just so used to it going on. There's a little bit more of a fight in certain areas. But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, no, they're 20-year-olds.
Yeah, I'm really glad you mentioned the soundtrack too, because I did want to talk about that. I love the music in this. I think that it's very like theatrical and just perfect for the film. And what you're saying about the characters and their ages and like, the lack of experience that they would have against something like this. I also think that's really great on like a meta level because this is like the next generation that is, stepping into the Alien franchise's boots, so to speak.
Yeah.
And there's some commentary also like in the beginning about their parents and like, I really like all of that because I think that it's kind of speaks to how a lot of the like younger people today view maybe the lifestyles and like consequences of the lifestyles that their parents chose like on a whole for like society in general.
Oh, sure.
So I think that that's really cool. And I don't know, I think that there was a lot of really good tension with them, and all of the kills that end up happening are all very like intense, and like I really enjoyed them.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And, another thing here too, I'm not going to say too much about it. But we are dealing with a lot of themes around like androids. Mm-hmm. And I think that those are explored really well here.
I do too.
As, in addition to all of that. So that's one of my favorite parts of the film too. So that was really, really freaking well done. And because Kaylee is the way she is, she was getting very upset by some of that stuff. And I think it all paid off pretty well for you. Mm-hmm. So yeah, just a lot of good exploration, a lot of good world building with like the Whaling Corporation. And what it is to be like a grunt on the ground and the consequences of that stuff. And as you were kind of getting at there, all of that stuff is really good. And of course is, it's a bit of a social commentary, obviously.
Very relevant.
Very relevant to our real life. So really good stuff all around. I don't really have much of a complaint. I mean, really. I mean, the little things I have here or there, they kind of all just wash away for me. Like, on a couple viewings, I won't give a shit about any of them. I'm just like, I'm totally into it. The xenomorphs look fantastic. The way they move, the way the face huggers are more menacing in this than they've ever been.
Yeah,
they're like as big of a threat in this movie as the xenomorphs are for once. They usually just kind of pop out and grab onto someone's face, and then that's mostly what they do. But this one, they're as formidable as the xenomorphs themselves. So a lot of them. So if you're creeped out by like spiders and bugs, then this franchise definitely, especially this film, because the xenomorphs kind of resemble cockroaches. And the face huggers, they resemble spiders, and especially the way they move. Oof.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It's a bug hunt, man.
I know, yeah.
So yeah, that's it. I really like our main character here. We get another badass girl, very Ripley-esque, and
Yes, for sure.
yeah, she takes on that mantle very well. None of it feels forced. All the decision making feels authentic. You can question it all you want, but decision making by characters is not plot holes. It's just what they're feeling in the moment, and I never had any issue with anything anybody was doing. I thought the emotional direction of everything that compelled them to do the things that they did was great. I love a character's shift after something happens to them. I thought that was really cool.
I do
but
too.
yeah, there's so many things. I mean, a spoiler discussion is the only way to properly discuss the film, but I will definitely be curious on what the overall consensus of the film is. I think most Alien fans will, as already stated, will be very divided on this inclusion in the third act, which is easily my favorite thing about the movie. But people are purists and they don't want anything altered, changed, or they just want the same shit, but then they don't want that. So it's like you just shouldn't make sequels, I guess. I don't know. I'll never understand them. But that's that. Anything more?
Nope, that's everything.
All right, so check it out. You probably already did because we're the last people who saw this, and we'll see you in the comments.